Hello there once again, and thank you for watching VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. We're on episode 118. You're either watching us on YouTube or listening on iTunes or Spotify. And if you can say some nice words about us, great. And if you say bad words, okay. We're not bothered. You know me, Steve Lillis. You know the man in the top there in his blue T-shirt, John Evans. He's local to me, just 3 or 4 miles to me, I think. And special guest tonight, one of the great voices of British boxing. Fella, I suppose he's 24/7 boxing, always working. Always, you might hear his voice on Sky. You might hear it on an internet channel. He might even pop up at a Peacock show because he loves boxing that much. It's Andy Clarke. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, good. Thanks, fellas. I missed the Peacock show last Saturday. Actually, I wasn't around, but yeah, it's down the road from me, Canning Town.
The previous one you was at, because I was in a car going to a show in Wakefield with Steve Wood, and we were watching that show from the Peacock, the Boy Jones fight.
Yeah, that's right. It was a good card. That I remember finding out about like Martin's plans for it a while ago, and I said to him, "Listen, like I live down the road. I like the idea of this. So if I'm around, you want me to help, like if you want me to do anything, then just let me know." And he said, "Oh yeah, if you could like jump on." His son Lewis does it with the commentary with Denzel.
Louis, well, yeah.
So I just nipped in for a couple of fights. They're good lads. And he's just set it up really well. You know what Martin's like. He's a very kind of precise, organised bloke. So you know that if he's doing something, everything will be done right. And standing room only, and it is standing room only.
Brilliant, isn't it? It looks
it's
brilliant.
Really, really good. Yeah, it's really, really good. I think I've got another one in June. I'll definitely make it down there if I can.
Yeah, and if anyone who's in the London area, when they have this show is in June, this is worth going to, because I've only seen it from the one camera angle, you see, but it looks like you're standing up on terracing at a football match looking into a ring, doesn't it? That's what it looked like from...
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So the ring's a little bit raised, and they've got a few seats around that. So for kind of supporters who need a seat, basically, and the officials, and then just kind of below that, you've got room for probably about 200, 250 people. I think it's been pretty well supported. 25 quid a ticket. The gym's been out of action for a while, but it's still there, and the space is still there for it. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Have you been to the new Peacock? The new Peacock in Epping is just like...
I haven't yet. I've heard of...
Oh, it's some setup.
Martin and Tony have asked me up there, and I haven't got there yet. And I think Eddie Muscat the other week asked me if I wanted to go up there at all if I was in London. But it's certainly worth going to. And if you're on your 32 red gigs, John Evans, certainly worth a look.
Yeah, must get down there soon. Andy, you're just saying the Peacock there. That's as small as it gets. You've been some big ones. I'm trying to remember last time we had you on. It must be a few months. What event have you enjoyed the most? Is there an event that it might not be? It may be a big one. It may be a little one. Is there one that really sticks in your mind from the last few months?
I mean, I did really enjoy Eubanks Smith at the Manchester Arena in January. I thought, it was packed. It was a really good atmosphere. Like Liam's ring walk was great. So I really enjoyed that. It's funny, isn't it? Because there's a lot of boxing on TV at the minute. And I think it's not that there aren't good shows. There are some really good shows, but the really kind of big ones don't seem to be quite as frequent as they used to be. I don't know whether that's just in my head. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, I went it's probably a couple of months ago now, actually. I went to the London schoolboy finals in a gym in a leisure centre in Feltham, and it was rammed. Like it was, you walked into the gym, the main gymnasium, and it was just heaving. So amateur boxing can be well supported, but I went to the London senior finals a few weeks before that because it was in Ilford, which is really near where I live. And it wasn't that well supported. It's all word of mouth. We know what it's like. Nothing's ever really advertised. But the schoolboys it was unbelievable. It was so well supported. There's loads of traveller boys who box in the schoolboys because they've all started when they're 5 or 6, so they just dominate it. And so they can tend to get caught up when the other lads who haven't started quite so young kind of, bridge that gap a bit. But yeah, I mean, it was packed. And I was just looking around and just thinking, this is really what it's all about. You know, we love the big nights and all the rest of it, but all these young fighters just doing it for the love of it, desperate to win. You can see how much it meant to win. You can see what it meant to lose. But if they got a tight decision, they took it really well and took it a lot better than some of the parents did. You just think this is what boxing's really about.
I was watching the schoolboy finals yesterday because the finest gym up here in Manchester had someone in the final, so I was watching it and it was loud. Yeah, you know, it is.
Yeah, it was in Guildford, wasn't it? I almost went yesterday, but I couldn't in the end. At that level, it's just it's brilliant because they're all dreaming of being world champions, of course. But and it's the same in the juniors and the youths and the seniors. But you know, they're just purely doing it for the love of it. And like any pro, like we all know, don't we? When with pros, they really come alive when you talk to them about their amateur days, because none of it was clouded by business or bullshit, or it was just about just doing something that you absolutely loved. And you're on a team most of the time, so kind of with your pals. I really enjoyed that.
All right, then. Well, thanks for that, Andy. Right, something I don't think you are going to speak on round one here this week, Andy. It's something I don't think you enjoy is pro fighters being linked with influencer boxers. So, John, I dare say the clock's going. Fire away.
Going already to go.
Yeah, so I keep this is kind of aimed at not exclusively at Johnny Nelson, my Sky pal, but he says this every now and again, and other people say it too, which is that pro fighters, should learn from influencer boxers, and I just don't really. In terms of building a profile and stuff like that. And I just don't really agree. I mean, I do agree that maybe it's good to have a name in your mouth to say of who you want to fight when you get to the end of a fight and you've won and you're sitting at ringside, fine. But this idea that it's realistic in any way for a pro fighter to try and build a profile in the same way as an influencer, it's not realistic. It's not realistic at all. These are athletes who've got to train and live the life 24/7. They haven't got time for all of that. The influencer fighters, they built these massive followings first, and then they started boxing, and they're part-time boxers at best. So to kind of expect that, it's kind of insulting to both sets, actually, because it sort of suggests that pro boxing is not really that demanding, and you've got loads of free time on your hands where you can just build a big profile. And it's kind of insulting to the influencers too, because it suggests that building a profile in the way they've done it is pretty straightforward, and you can do that in your free time. These two spaces are just totally different. And if I hear one more time about all these new eyeballs it brings to the sport, I'm just going to scream. Because there's just no evidence for that at all, is there? None. Zero.
Yeah.
John.
No, you're dead right, Andy. How many of those, God knows how many thousand people watching those two fat fellas fighting slow motion on Saturday night are going to be at York Hall watching a Southern Area title fight? They're not, are they? They're not.
No.
Yeah.
They're not. No, definitely not.
No, it just doesn't cross over whatsoever. I remember a guy up here in Manchester, he tried putting on an evening of entertainment over at Bowlers, which is out of town, 20 minutes out of town. I think it's a pretty poor venue. And he was going to put on 4 fights and have dancing afterwards and drinks and bring a new crowd. And I remember saying to him, look, you might bring a group of young 20-something women to watch, but they've still got to sit through 6 rounds of Chris Healy at cruiserweight. They won't come back. It just doesn't work. It doesn't translate. It's two different markets, I think.
If you saw Chris Healy at cruiserweight, that must have been some time ago.
It was in the great days of the old Dave Caldwell shows, which were fantastic. Yeah.
I think I might have worked on one of them.
Brilliant.
I don't want to name the promoter.
Yeah, I know. I've got it. Yeah,
it'd be mean, but I'm pretty sure I did. I ended up commentating with Paulie Malignaggi. It was a pretty pretty bizarre stuff all around.
Yeah. Right. I think we overrun there, John, have we?
All right, bang on. Time.
Bang on. Right. Round 2, ref in hell. Look, I mean, it's just to throw it forward. We all saw the Barroso stoppage the other night. Absolutely mad. It made the Froch Groves stoppage look like the Mercer Morrison decapitation. Anyway, it's just, how do you think refs, and I don't want to dig out refs badly here, because a lot of them do a great job. And, I got my respect. But it's like in any sport. how refs can be made accountable. Now, I think it would make their PR and the sports PR a lot better if they did an interview afterwards. I don't mean these fucking idiots with fans with cameras who would ask them where they got their dicky boat from and where they get their white collared shirt from. But someone, maybe Sky, BT, or a little group huddle, discussing fights and how they come to these decisions and stoppages, because they've got to be made accountable. And, I'm wondering, when you've been doing like Tony Weeks 30 years, that's a long time. You must have slowed at what you can do in your career. There's no way I can operate in boxing like I did 20 years ago, with what I remember and what I know. And that's just what it is with age. And I just wondered how you think they could be made accountable and their image can be better. I certainly think they should be made to speak after fights, even if it's just on TV.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. And I think as well, from speaking to some officials, they'd actually quite welcome that, because sometimes they want to speak and they don't get the opportunity. They'll hear us say stuff and just think, well, that's not really right. You've kind of assumed that I've done it for this reason, and that wasn't it. So I think a lot of the time they'd actually be happy just to stand up there and say, listen, I stopped that fight because I saw this. You didn't see what I saw. All right, it might have been a bit early, but that's why I did it. Because he must have seen something, Tony Weeks. I don't know what it was, but just tell us.
Yeah, Tony Weeks, he was the man in charge of Corrales Castillo.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and Fury, Otto Wallin with a horrendous cut. So, like you say, maybe there was a look in Barroso's eyes that he just caught that split second. But Barroso threw the heaviest punch of the exchange, didn't he, with that big right? I just can't see it. The thing about the referees giving interviews. Can you think of another sport where the referees do give an interview?
This is what I'm saying. Generally, it's I meant to say, I was thinking about this today, John, and I meant to point out it's a problem for sport as a whole that referees aren't allowed. There's always the football referees, and I remember about 5 years ago there was a big controversy in basketball over them not being able to speak. But it isn't just the interviews. I mean, should there be a retirement age? I mean, I know there is in this country, and like people like Vic Draculic didn't retire. He retired not long ago, and he was nearer 70 than 65. I just think you slow up as you get older, and that's, I'm getting older. I forget. Oh, there you go. I've got to shut up now. John's getting angry with me. Go on, someone who don't make you angry. Who doesn't make you angry, John, or has he in the past?
I've forgotten my topic, Steve.
Ryan Garner.
Oh, the piranha. At last. Yeah. There's some prospects, isn't there, who they blow away a journeyman in a 4-round or a 6-round and everyone raves about them, then they disappear off. But Ryan, when he first burst on the scene when he was 18, he had that something special, He stood out from the crowd. He turned over so young, he was so good. And then you start hearing and speaking to people who sparred him, like Josh Warrington, Carl Frampton, Mick Conlon, and they rave about him. And the stories you hear from the gyms, Ryan's a surefire nailed-on superstar. Now, Ryan's let himself down. He'll be the first person to admit that. I remember doing a story in Boxing News. I think it was the second time he fainted on the scales. And the actual magazine got took into the board hearing and read as evidence for them all to get bollocked for it. But you just cannot help but like Ryan. He's such a likeable character, a real Jack the lad. It's very impossible to fall out with him, no matter how many times he lets you down. And for him to come back on Saturday and fight like that, I was over the moon for him. I know how hard we've worked. He's got a new missus. He's got a kid. He wants a mortgage. He's settled down. And I genuinely think Ryan Garner might be the brightest hope we've got in the country. I seriously do. I think he's got the lot. And if he sorted his mind out, it could be something really special.
What weight is he going to go at, John? Is he going to go
super feather?
So if he's a super feather now, they should be looking at Mikey Gomez straight away next if they can get the fight. That's easier said than done. Then after that, Archie Sharp, Kakachi, Liam Dillon, Dil Magani. Let's just go with it. Reese Mould. Well, he's lightweight, but he's
lightweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to mess about, is there? I think I did one of his early fights. It might even have been his debut in about 2016, 17. And I remember going up to the dressing room, the upstairs ones at York Hall, to have a quick chat with him. So I didn't know loads about him. And he was good that night. And then, I was actually talking to Frank Hopkins about him not that long ago. Yeah, I love talking to Frank, and it was when he'd come back about 2.5 days after his retirement. His Frank's retirement didn't last long, did it? And we're just chatting about Ryan Garner, and he was just saying, that he's still got loads to offer, and you'd have to say that he's right. And this is it now, though. This has to be it now. But hopefully, he'll deliver because he definitely does have a lot of ability.
Oh, for style, he's got a crowd-pleasing style. He's got the greatest pound-for-pound nickname in the country. He's an endearing character. I just think it's there for Ryan now. He's in a weight class where he can make quick moves as well. And we're going to see.
Andy, round 4. Pretty random or topical, whatever. Well, random. Live music acts. You're not happy with them?
No, live music acts should be banned from ring walks. It's as simple as that. There's no need for them. They're always far too loud. And the reason I don't really like them is because they just distract from the fighter. The ring walk should be about the fighter. It's not about the live music acts. We actually had a couple in Birmingham on the recent Sky show. I thought actually did a good job. They didn't make it all about them. I thought they did a good job of it, but inevitably it does become at least slightly about them, and it shouldn't be. So you don't need a live act. Ring walks are really simple, but they're brilliant. A big fight ring walk, there's nothing else like it in all the sport. All you want to see is a fighter walk from the dressing room, that lonely green mile, as Frotch used to call it, from the dressing room to the ramp, out of the shadows, into the light, out of the silence, into the thunder, and then down the ramp they go. And you don't need anyone else there distracting any attention. This is their thing. It's their moment, and it's them we want to see. And that goes as well for people doing my job. Just stay out of the way. A big ring walk, you don't need me or anyone else talking over that. The images and the sound do the job for you. Throw in a little bit at the end maybe if you want, but you don't need to be telling everybody their record and their favorite color as they're walking into the ring. It's just not, it's just not necessary. But yeah, leave those ring walks alone as much as you can, and certainly no live acts. I don't know about you two, but I've just never seen one where I've thought, oh yeah, this is really improving this.
I love live music. Anyone who's live, any genre, is good luck to them. But what I don't want to see is them walking down with a boxer. We had them great shows in Germany. We showed in the Box Nation days where, the bands would be playing, and it wouldn't take away from the ring walk. It would add. We had the Cockney Rejects, the greatest British rock and roll band of all time, with Kevin Mitchell just up in the stands playing when he fought Michael Katsidis at Upton Park. That, to me, I love all that. It's when I see these guys, these rappers and all that, who are popular, walking along with a fighter. That's when it distracts. I think we've had these guys on the stage, it's been brilliant.
No, that's actually that's what I meant. I wasn't specific enough. You're right. If you've got a band inside the venue, just essentially providing the backing music, fine. It's just people walking into the ring, live acts walking into the ring with the fighter.
How about the recent one?
That's what I don't want.
The one where Adam Wazima's on stage with the girl singing the haunting ballad, and he was just walking around for ages waiting for it to finish. That was the worst.
It went on for a long time, didn't it? I remember I was there for the rehearsal in the afternoon, and I was thinking, God, this is long. And I thought if I see Ryland Charlton or his team around this afternoon, I'm just going to tell them, that it's long, because they're probably not going to be expecting to be waiting for quite such a long time.
Round 5. Great fight this weekend. Chantelle Cameron putting on all her super lightweight belts against Katie Taylor. And I don't think, just speaking to a lot of people in boxing about that, I've ever known a fight where so many people fear someone's going to get robbed. A lot of people have just said to me they just fear that Chantelle's going to get robbed in this fight because Katie will get an early lead, and although she'll peg it back, it'll be close. She just won't get the decision. I fancy, and I have done since the off, I fancy Chantelle massively in this fight. I can get why Taylor might win early around. She's quicker, but I'm so big on Chantelle for this fight. I'll see what you two guys want. I'll start with, I'll start with you, Andy.
Yeah, I'm the same. When a fight gets made, I've kind of learned over time to listen mostly to my first instinct. It's not always right, obviously, but usually when I ignore it, it tends to be right. And my first thought was, wow, this is a big gamble by Taylor. I love the fact that she's doing it. There's a massive prize on offer, so I can understand why she's doing it. But I just remember watching a fight against Linda Dartu, the only other one she's had at super lightweight. And Linda Dartu's not a big super lightweight. She's boxing at lightweight now. And I remember watching that, and my takeaway from that was, all right, that'll tell Team Taylor, we don't need to go back up there. Let's stay at lightweight and people can come to us. And that's what she's done. And Cameron was a really good amateur, and she's good enough to make the size difference count. And it's just a question of whether she can respond to the occasion and do it under the pressure that she's going to be under. Because let's face it, like Taylor in Dublin, that's Canelo in Mexico. You know, it's one of the toughest jobs in world boxing. And if she can deliver the performance, like I said, she's good enough to make the size count.
Yeah. Talent wise, I think Cameron can do it. I think she punches hard. I've never seen her hurt, and I don't think she'll get outboxed clearly, but she's always going to be in the fight. She's always going to be landing, and I think that'll take its toll on Taylor these days. I think Taylor gets hit. She's made out to be this master boxer, but no, she's been getting it done on grit and determination recently, hasn't she? And Cameron might just hit a bit hard. I think Cameron's biggest test is how she holds it together this week. I think this is her biggest thing. There's going to be a lot of questions fired at her about certain topics. She's already built this up into a big thing by things she's said and done. And I think it's the way she handles herself over the next 4 or 5 days dictates how the fight goes. That's my big worry now. Because ability, I've fancied Cameron to win this fight for years, but I'm umming and ahhing a bit about how she'll handle all the attention. Fine.
Final round, John, and obviously Lomachenko Haney this week is something that we can you're hanging this topic on. Washed up wins, I've called this subject.
Yeah, we won't call Loma washed up just yet, will we? But he's been written off completely, isn't he? In this fight, it's going to be seen as a big shock if he wins. Just off topic, this is Haney's biggest test by a mile. Haney's been built into this world beater, having beat George Kambosos twice. He's stepping up many levels here. But I was thinking, what's your favourite performance or victory by a fighter who's been written off or seen as way past the best? And I've got 2 fights on my YouTube that I watch more than any. Duran against Davy Moore, when he was written off and he came back and smashed up Davy Moore. But Duran against Iran Barkley.
I've got that. Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
one. It's a phenomenal fight, an incredible performance by my greatest fighter. And that's my favourite, Duran against Barkley. What's yours?
Oh, mate, Duran against Barkley. He just knocked out Thomas Hearns. Roberto Duran had been treading water since he was sparked by Hearns, I think. And I think he might have lost to Robbie Sims while he was treading that water. And then I think the fight before he fought Barkley in 89 or 90, he beat Ricky Stackhouse over 10 rounds, who was the perennial club fighter everyone boxed in the 80s. And of course, you know what? You just go back and let's be a bore. The Rumble in the Jungle, you still got, because Ali was considered past his best then. You know, he'd lost to Frazier and Norton. Foreman had demolished them. So there's that. But John, that's my favourite, Barkley against Duran, 1989, I think it was.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean that takes a hell of a lot of beating on that score. I just kind of this is a sort of like a domestic level fight, and the reason it always sticks in my mind is because it was the first one I did, the first main event I did for Sky. Was Derry Matthews beating Anthony Crolla.
Oh yeah.
Because at that point Derry was he was totally written off in that fight, and he'd lost to Emiliano Morsilli, I think, and things weren't looking great.
Yeah,
and I think if he'd lost, that might have been it. But he won. And just really kicked on from there and had a kind of sort of Indian summer towards the end. So I always remember that fight because it was an important one for me. But I just Oldham Leisure Centre, April 2012, it would have been. It was just I mean, I love those two guys.
Andy, I was there that night. What a phenomenal atmosphere that was in Oldham Sports Centre that night.
It was brilliant. Yeah, it was really, really good. Really good. Really good.
Yeah, it's one that really. When people say what's your favourite night at boxing, I always say that's one of mine. Crolla Derry at Oldham Sports Centre. Yeah,
controversial stoppage. Stoppage. Some felt. John Keane, wasn't it? I think it was John Keane.
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. Just we're going off topic briefly here. Well, we are. When you say your favourite nights of boxing, there's some real random ones. One of my favourite nights was around 1997, 1998. York Hall, Crawford Ashley against Monty Wright at York Hall. And the place that night, everyone talks about Tapia being the most packed they've seen it. I still think it was more packed that night, and it was a bear pit that night. Popular traveller Monty Wright against Crawford Ashley travelling. No, was it? Yeah, and he'd done him in a couple rounds.
Yeah, there's some that just stick in your mind, isn't it? For no particular reason, but it just picks up as the night goes, and one fight leads into another. There's usually good people around, a good atmosphere, and it's the ones you least expect which can turn into real good ones.
Anyway, fellas, before we go, quick prediction for Saturday night: Haney and Lomachenko.
I'm going Haney. I might have sort of half lost my mind earlier on when I was with Rob Tebbett on the Boxing News pod, and I went for a Haney stoppage. I do think Haney's going to beat him. I totally agree that Lomachenko's been written off too quick. I just think there are quite a lot of miles on the clock, and Haney looks like a man in, on an absolute mission here. He feels like this can be just a massive, almost breakout win, which sounds a bit mad given that he's undisputed. But I fancy Haney. I love Loma, but I've always been a believer with Haney.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd still fancy Lomachenko against almost any other super featherweight, but lightweight, I just don't think he's quite big enough and a little few too many miles to beat these guys at lightweight now. So I'll pick Haney probably by, like, I don't know, 16-12, 17-11 type score.
Yeah, I think I always said size was going to be the biggest factor for Lomachenko losing fights as he moved up. And there's also the bit of freshness there. I think a real cagey affair, maybe nothing in it after 7-8 rounds, but I can see Devin Haney pulling away and winning comfortable at the end. Something like maybe 1-1-6, 1-1-2 if we're getting a little bit. We've got to predict scorecards here, John.
As long as you don't be one of these people who predicts a split decision, we're all right.
I'm not predicting any split decision. Fellas, thank you very much for tonight. Andy, thanks for affording us some time after I don't know what work you've been doing today. It seems like you've been recording podcasts all day, but thanks for giving us some time tonight, and we'll hopefully have you on again in a few months' time. And you must be looking forward to Bournemouth Saturday week. I take it you're there.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, what a night that is.
Brilliant.
Conlon in Ireland, Wood Lara, and Bilham Smith and Coley. So yeah, I am. Yeah, and it's a good card. That Mikel Lowell, Isaac Chamberlain's a really good fight. Sam Eggington, Joe Pigford.
Yes.
That's an interesting one. Lee Cutler, Stanley Stannard. It's a good card. It's a good card. And to be honest, I feel like we're sort of due on Sky because we had Azim go the domestic fight nights. We've had Azim go the distance. There was nothing wrong with that. But then with the Coley and Boazzi, the big fanfare returning to Sky and both of those two fights, they kind of underwhelmed, didn't they? Which was unfortunate. So I'm hoping that the 27th, these things happen, don't they, in sport? I'm hoping the 27th will, full stadium. They've released more tickets, 50,000. Should be a really good night. Highest
ever crowd at the stadium, because for football, you only get 11 or 12 in there. It's going to be brilliant. And one thing Sky do so well for these big events like that, they make it look good on TV, like you're watching a big event, don't they?
Yeah, it'll be. I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be. Yeah. I went to Albania for Florian Marcu's homecoming last year, and that was a kind of similar-ish size stadium, and it just really works because it's just that bit tighter, that bit more intimate.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. John, thanks very much as well for joining us this week. Hope all goes well with you this week, John, and you, Andy, and thank you everyone for watching, listening. It's been great having you.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.